Something for us, Jessica, just so I can hear. Can you hear me okay, Jessica?
Yes, I can hear you.
Could you hear her in the audience? Okay. Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping things. We do have masks available in the back corner on the table if anyone would like one. We also have hand sanitizing stations in that corner. And between speakers, we have the police chief will be wiping down the microphone for people's safety, okay? The other thing is that could people raise their hand if they're here for the summer sewer rate program? Okay, if you don't mind, I think we may move that during the meeting if that's acceptable to you. Just earlier in the meeting so you don't have to wait as long, okay?
Are they going to stay for the raffle?
How much is the raffle?
They have to be present for me.
Yeah. Okay. Did anybody else wish to sign in to speak for the summer rate program or really anything?
That's somewhere they say right now.
Okay. You ready? You ready? You do the prayer? Welcome to the Mooresville Town Council meeting Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. We will start with our pledge and then our invocation. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, as we gather this evening, this council asks for strength, courage, and wisdom. We thank you for this wonderful town that we live in, and for giving us the privilege to serve it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, since we have one member on the phone, I'll do a roll call just for the attendance. Jessica Hester.
Present via telephone.
Okay. Councilman Cook.
Present Town Hall.
Councilman Worthen.
Present Town Hall.
Councilman Stanley.
Present Town Hall.
And Shane Williams is present in the town hall. We do have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the meeting June 2nd, 2020. Do we have a motion for that?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from June 2nd as written.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Aye.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Do I need to do a roll call for each one of these? Okay. We'll do a roll call for this since we have one on the phone. Councilman Cook?
I say.
Okay, Councilman Cook abstains. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye, and Shane Williams votes aye. The motion passes. Okay, the next item on the agenda, we're going to move item E to item A under unfinished business. And I think we'll start with Scott from Baker Tilly to give us our presentation, and then we'll go to the audience after that.
Thank you. It's good to see all of you. This is the first meeting I've been to live since your March meeting, which was my last meeting, so nice to be out for a change. You had asked that we look at what could be done about a summer sprinkling credit for the wastewater bill. I passed out to you an analysis that we conducted using the data that we already had from the rate study. The typical way of doing, or probably the most typical way of doing this type of study, is to look at replacing actual summer usage with an average of winter usage. And so that's what we've done in this analysis. And one of the first steps is to try to determine if we do this, that's likely going to result in lost revenue to the utility. How much is that, and is it enough that we need to impact the rates and charges and increase them to cover that shortfall? So that's what this analysis does as a high-level overview. In going through and looking at just the residential class and looking at how much each customer used for the 12-month period that we have, looking at that test year data and adjusting, in this case for this analysis, all of the residential customers' June, July, and August consumption or August flow with the December, January, February flow, it looks like we'd have a reduction of about $17,400 in revenue. So not a huge amount. As we look at that residential class as a whole, we do see some variation, certainly not with everybody, but there are some customers that do have a variation in their usage. As we get into those summer months, that usage, that flow does tend to increase. With an impact here of, as I said, $17,400, if this is the route that you choose to go, I guess my reaction would be that that's not enough to do anything else to the rates and charges. I think you've got enough built into the rates already with what we've built into the revenue requirements that you likely could absorb that without doing any sort of additional adjustment. And so if that's the way that you want to go forward, this analysis would look at, as I said, replacing actual June, July, and August flow with December, January, and February flow for residential customers. And presumably then they would get the lower of those two amounts. If you had some strange occurrence where, July flow was a lot less, they'd get the actual flow or the average of that winter flow, and they'd get that as a bill during the summer for the sewer. So that should take into account any additional usage that they would have from lawn sprinkling or other outside uses. I'm happy to answer any questions. There are a variety of ways that we could approach this. You need to keep in mind both the financial impact but also the administrative impact and how you're going to administer this, whether this is something that residential customers have to request, or is it something that just gets applied to the entire class just as a matter of policy and practice during the summer? I think those would be things to decide. Is 3 months, and is that time frame the right time frame? Those are all considerations, but as we look at this kind of should give you a reasonable idea of what that impact might be, and that it isn't going to be a huge impact. And so if the council does want to move forward and do some sort of credit, I think you're in a position that you can do that with the rates that you have right now. Or I should say the rates that are going to take effect in January in the adopted ordinance.
Can we, and I know you helped with the writing of the ordinance for rate ordinance as is. Can we put this into the ordinance and laser out just the residential uses? I know that in previous conversations, we've been concerned with industrial users and everyone in business. Can we laser this back to just the residential uses like you did on the study itself?
Yes.
That's a legal question, and town attorney says yes.
Yeah, it's been done in several communities where it's usage that is not going back in. So industrial usage is a little bit different. When you talk about residential uses, you're talking about watering the yard, filling the pool, those sorts of things during the summer. And so several communities do have these sorts of credits in there for the residential uses. Now, I would suggest not putting it it would be an ordinance that you would enact, but I would keep it separate from technically that rate. I don't want to go back and amend the rate ordinance that's increased. It would be a separate amendment, which is enacting this policy if you choose to move forward with that. If that makes sense.
And do you see any additional costs to be able to do this, or are we gonna have to buy different software, or are we going to have to?
The main concern I have is with Hill Water. They use their domestic water meter for their lawn irrigation and domestic use. So Hill Water has no way to report to us. So we're gonna have to go in and do those manually, some way. And that is going to be an additional increase on work in my office to do that.
By the ordinance that we passed, it shows that we can't really discount, that we would credit back or refund back the summer rate. Is that correct?
This wouldn't be a refund, it would just, the actual bill would be based on presumably lower flow based on a winter average rather than presumably a higher flow.
Let me
during
correct
the summer.
myself, Tom. I did make an error there. I apologize. I was thinking about in the prior to us implementing this. If we put in the reading from the water company, the billing software will have an algorithm in it to be able to compare usage for the months that we decide that we're gonna compare it to and bill the lesser of the two. So I
So we
apologize.
have
for
that in place that you can do.
Yes, our software is capable of doing that.
Do you think that this is in any way, my concern is, it's real easy to point out a problem, but I always want to try to point out some type of solution. If we're looking at $17,000 a year lost revenue, and we go back to our food and beverage, which part of the councils that adopted the food and beverage said that we could use it for sewer improvements or sewer expenses. Can we, in order to enact this, could we put in a $1,500 or $2,000 payment from our food and beverage into the wastewater to offset that difference? That way we're still revenue neutral there. And build that into this page. The $24,000 a year is gonna come out of food and beverage to offset.
If those dollars aren't being used in other places in your town budget, sure, you could do that. I guess my initial reaction would be let's wait and see what that impact is, because we've got built in $617,000 for annual replacements and improvements. So that's it's a good number. It's based on data that we've used, but to develop that. But let's see if you actually spend all of that before you go and take food and beverage. I mean, you know it's there. You know you could always use it if you needed to, but
You don't think we need to obligate a replacement for it now? At this dollar amount, I don't have a problem with doing
at
that.
$17,000 per year, I don't think so. No. Because I think keep in mind, we've got bans outstanding now, and we're going to need to issue long-term bonds. So we need the sewer utility in a good financial condition. But even at $17,000 less, I don't think that creates a big issue on a going forward basis. Now, we'll have to see, this is all based on data before 2020, so we'll have to see what 2020 brings. And that we'll have that data by the time that we get around to issuing the bonds. So if at that point, really kind of late first quarter, early second quarter next year, when we're getting ready to do that bond issuance, we can look at 2020, see how things look, and then if we need to, we could always put that in place at that point. It's kind of where you, with the food and beverage, like I said, unless you're using it for, and have it earmarked for another purpose within the town budget, it's kind of where are you maintaining reserves? Are you gonna maintain it over here in food and beverage, or are you gonna maintain it over here in wastewater? You have more flexibility as long as it's in food and beverage.
And at this point, do we need to discuss, Jewel, about if we're going to recommend that we have a permit for individuals to sign up for this program, or is it gonna be all the way across the board?
I think that's gonna be a discussion between by the council, if they decide to move forward with the summer credit, how they wanna effectuate that, as to whether or not it's gonna be an application, so people have to come in and physically do something. I mean, that process will take more from your office, because you're gonna have to track who made the application by what time. I mean, in the communities that have that, the applications are due by a certain date, and if they're not in by that certain date, you don't get it. And so, but that, I think the first question for this council is whether or not you're gonna be moving forward with that credit type situation, or whether you're not. So that, I think that determination is made first. And today, for today's purposes, you don't have an action item itself. You can give a directive saying, hey, draft something and we'll consider it, things of that nature, but you don't have an action item to vote on that, because it would have to be by way of ordinance.
The study that you did, great study you did, was everybody, was every residential use. Is that correct?
For the sprinklers, yes, what we try to do is give you a worst case scenario from a revenue perspective. So we assumed everybody would get the credit, yes. Now, not everybody is really impacted, because not everybody is doing a whole lot of summer irrigation. We've got a significant number of residential customers that have roughly the same level of flow throughout the entire year. But there is a group that does see their flow go up during the summer.
So the 17.4 is the high end.
With 3 months, yes. If we're gonna stick with the 3-month credit, 17.4 should be the high end, because we've assumed everybody, you know. And assuming the flow is, you know, roughly comparable from year to year to year.
Is there something in there that if we do it across the board, that makes sure that if someone's sewer bill is lower those 3 months, it doesn't automatically raise theirs, or does it automatically go to the average?
I believe it'll default to their average.
To the low, it will default to the average. So if someone is gone April, May, or June, July, and August,
Yeah, right.
then their bill may be higher. Will it default to
Because if the
low?
usage comes in, say, if the water consumption comes in for that 30-day billing period, it would be, say, they use 1,000 gallons, okay? And if their average for January, February, March are 0, then it would be billed.
I know, but what I'm saying, if we plop that back around, where if they're not there in the summer months, and their average use is 0, but yet they use 3,000 gallons, I mean,
You're
it's-
getting into some nuts and bolts of the programming of the software, which I don't have that knowledge to answer that question. right
Well,
now.
it's just
I
something we would
can,
have
I can
to look
find
at.
out for you.
I'm gonna guess that it probably can be set up to take the lesser of.
Lower the ticket.
What percentage is $17,363 of our total our total annual sewer revenue? It's almost-
What percentage is that 17,000?
Yeah, it's really tiny.
Yeah, it's, what, 0.5%? Yeah, 0.5%.
I'm glad we got the report, because for months we've been saying how much this is gonna cost, and it's tiny. So the report kind of revealed some things to me anyway. I thought it would be more than this, to be honest. I wanna make sure, can you hear me, Jessica? I wanna make sure, Jessica, do you have any questions before we let speakers come up?
I do not.
Okay. Any other questions from the council?
Just as another point of data for your, just for your information, during the summer, those 3 months, the flow for the residential customers is almost 45 million gallons in total. During the winter months, it's about 41.6. So I mean, we're only talking about 3.3 million gallons of reduced flow. So there's just not a big impact. There aren't a huge number of residential customers doing a lot of irrigation from the looks of the data.
Any other questions?
Can I ask one question from the audience?
Sure.
Is there anyone here that does not want a summer rate? Okay, we made a promise to John Earhart that we would look into this. We stood in the sweaty shop and talked about this. 12 years ago. Well, I don't know that I did 12 years ago. But, I would make a motion that we move forward in going with the summer rate. I know that there's people that signed up to speak on behalf of this, but, you know, since we can carve it out to just the residential, I think that's always been the hang-up was how do we give it to one group and not the others? And now we can. So that's where my concern has always been. I'm ready to move forward.
Okay, we have a motion.
I mean,
Do I need to allow,
What,
they signed up to speak, so I feel like they.
well, again, you don't have any action items right now, so in order to do something like this, you would have to do it by way of ordinance. And then so you would have to go by the standard ordinance procedures, which is the two readings of the ordinance. And we don't have an ordinance prepared to even read.
Right, we
So-
just got the study today.
Right, so I can create an ordinance which incorporates this, but you guys would, I mean, it can be up for discussion as to how it applies when you bring it in, when you, whether it's application or not. You have to make all those determinations, but we do have time because the new rates don't go into effect until January. And so you have time to hit that. Now-
But is there any harm in us voting to go forward?
Well, I mean, you can vote to go forward, but nothing will be done until you consider the ordinance and take action on the ordinance.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it'd be a vote that really, it'd be a symbolic vote, to say that, to show the support for it, but it wouldn't have any effect whatsoever.
We can put it on the next meeting agenda, right?
Correct.
the two readings though, can we do something yet this year with this year's rate?
With this year's rate? Yeah, I don't know that this technically looks at, I mean, I think the calculation could be done. You'd be looking, it really, can't really go retroactive because that'd be a credit back type situation. So you'd be looking at July, August, probably can get something done. If we have an ordinance created and you suspend the rules and act on first reading at your next meeting, you can get it in effect at the next meeting.
I'd like to do that. So it's first reading.
Can I still let them speak if they want, give them a chance real
Yeah.
quick? We have a motion, but would anybody like to speak anyway?
Yes, I would.
Okay, come on up. Thank you.
I've been here way too frequently. Maybe this will cut me out of the future meetings, but, and we're totally excited. I'm John Earhart, 5485 East Thomas Drive. I have some residents with me tonight that have been concerned about this for a long time, and I'm excited to hear that we're going to move forward with something. One question that I have historical data to show this, and I'm sure others do too, it's really a 4-month watering period, not 3, in all actuality. So So I would like for you to consider a 4-month adjustment, which we have from other communities.
What months are those?
July, August, it goes into September.
Into September.
He mentioned just August.
June, July, August.
Yeah, so
You want June, July, August, and
September,
September.
well, September can be a real dry month. You know, the spring is, we don't start watering, just started really, because springs normally bring some rain, and we don't turn them on until we're there. You know, we just don't use the water to have it on. We start using it when it is needed on the lawns. So that would be the only question that really comes to mind from the data that I've acquired from others and myself. It really comes down to a 4-month period, but, I mean, we're excited to have 3 months. I mean, let me tell you. The other question would be, like you started talking about, an implementation date. But that's, we know that you have to rewrite the ordinance or make an adjustment to that ordinance, which we understand. And how you want us to sign up for it, you know, I understand that's, you know, whether that could be done by mail. In some cases, our retirees aren't able to come into town, but can certainly communicate by mail or email, or, you know, not everybody has email too either, but I want to thank you so much for finally, you know, stop kicking the can down the field. So I really appreciate it, Tom, really. So.
It was a group effort, and things changed as far as, like I said, in the past, it's always been, you know, we've been advised that you don't want to segregate one group.
No.
And you and I even had that discussion.
Right.
And did we think it was right? No. Did we understand it? I think so.
Yeah.
So this material being able to tie it out, I'm assuming that the 3 months, we could take the $17,000, divide by 3, and then assume that the impact would be $25,000 or $24,000 rather than 17. Is that correct? Would that be a safe assumption?
I think that's probably a safe assumption to go by if you wanted to do 4 months instead.
Well, if you look at the rate flow too, or whatever, summer months really go into September.
Yeah, if the council wishes, we can add that 4th month in it and show you that impact as well. But and as Tom said, I think that's likely what you're going to see in everything.
Well, thank you very much. Sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Did anybody else on the list want to come up real quickly? I think there's a Pam and a Lester. Or you don't have to, it's just, I don't want you to lose your opportunity, so come on up. Oh, sorry. I can't read it.
My name is Lester White, and all the discussion I've been hearing is common sense. Would you like to pay for something that you don't use? The water doesn't go through your treatment system, so we're paying for something we're not getting also. And I'm glad to see that somebody's recognizing that. You know, it's bad enough to get a water bill and then get a sewer bill. It's 4 and 5 times higher than the water bill, and the water's not going into the sewer. You know, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Pam, what's your last name?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Since this is, I guess, decided, maybe this won't make any difference, but we're in a new home and of course have an irrigation system. And our May sewer bill for 28 days was $208. Obviously an excessive amount for 2 people. And it seems reasonable that some adjustment could be made in the system that would account for the fact that the majority of what that bill was based on wasn't processed through the Mooresville sewer system. So this is a big reason, I don't know how much other people, but a $208 sewer bill for probably $40 or $50 worth of water just really isn't fair.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's right here. Anybody else on the sewer? I just don't want to cut anybody off. Okay. So we had a motion to move forward. Do we have a second?
Second?
Was that motion for 3 months or 4 months, or just to move forward with the summer rate program?
We need to clarify with Tom, I guess.
What's your motion for 3 or 4? Well, it was forward, it was just to move forward. I didn't
Just to
put-
move forward.
I didn't put a time on the month, because at the time we were still discussing 3.
Sure.
I think John wanted 7.
As much work as he's done, I'm good with it.
Really?
So we're just to move forward with the new
I
ordinance?
mean, we can, you tell me what the council wants and we'll go with that. And if we want to go with 4 months, we want to look at 4 months, that's fine with me.
I can prep an ordinance that has both. And so you guys can discuss at the next meeting and make a decision that way.
And we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting. That will let you know that we're serious. So we have a motion. Oh, can you bring Jessica back? Sorry. Jessica, could you hear everything?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to move forward with an ordinance for the sewer rate program. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. Shane Williams votes aye. Motion passes. So it will be on the next month's agenda. Don't need to say that before you go.
Yeah, you can.
If you don't want to sit for the rest of the meeting, you don't have to, you're free to go. If you want to stay, that's totally your right, so it's up to you.
Yeah, I've got a note on it to research it.
Yeah, that's, I was trying to do the math.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Jewel, I'm getting complaints, I still can't hear you, is that mic working?
Me?
Yeah, still not.
It's the math.
Yeah, Scott, if you want to head out, you can as well. It's up to you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the new spot.
So you're getting way below, so you're just getting paid.
Jessica, there's a little discussion happening and then we'll resume the meeting, okay?
Okay, thank you.
It's working, isn't it?
Can't wait until we leave.
So,
Yeah.
it might.
Standing back there.
recognize the massive.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
we'll continue on with the meeting now. So the next item, we'll go back up to item A, Innovative Performance Technologies, the confirmatory resolution 7-20.
Okay, so really you'll want to call a hearing on the tax. So last meeting, you had the declaratory resolution and your hearing as to the waiver for the filing period. So now you'll want to have a hearing right before the confirmatory resolution to make a determination. This would provide for tax abatement for real and personal property. Really, it's a piece of equipment that they brought in. And so this creates the economic, my brain's freezing right now, sorry. Your economic revitalization area, which allows for the tax abatement to go into place for this property.
This is on personal property.
This is a personal property tax abatement.
So we'll open the public hearing for, correct?
Correct.
So we'll open the public hearing for the confirmatory resolution. Do we have anyone who wants to speak? Do I need a motion to close the hearing?
Yes.
So I would accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Councilman Worthen makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Councilman Stanley seconds. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. And Shane Williams votes aye.
So with the hearing closed, now for your consideration is the confirmatory resolution, which declares it as an economic revitalization area and awards the tax abatement to Innovative Performance Technologies for the new piece of equipment they have at the location.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve Resolution 7-2020, and I would actually like to thank Brian for his partnership in bringing this in.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Cook, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye, and Shane Williams votes aye. The motion passes. I'm going to go ahead and pass this down for signatures. Next item on the agenda would be gateway maintenance, and is Dave here? Dave, do you want to come up real quickly and just say what we're going to talk about the bid that we're going to open?
Be glad to. We have advertised for bids for maintaining the flower beds. We didn't spec the bids for mowing and a lot of the downtown flower beds, but we need a little bit of help out on the highway and down Indiana Street, so we advertised for bids. We had a couple of contractors show up to the pre-bid meeting, and I hope they submitted bids.
I'm only seeing one bid submitted, correct? So, I'll have you open it. I like to have you do it. This bid is a joint bid from Parks, Outdoor Maintenance and Grounds, Lawn Care.
specs, I request a lump sum bid, whether they did that monthly or yearly.
They're here, do we want to call them up?
Yeah, so it looks like we have two sections here. The first is for mulching, hedging, bed maintenance, churning the mulch 3 times a year, irrigation, checks, that total is $66,595. And then you have the B section, which is going to be a cleanup, mulch placement, mulch turning, bush trimming, fall cleanup, spring cleanup, at $9,070 for the first year. So I'm a little bit confused as to what exactly is being bid on, so you may want to get some clarification on that, if I read that wrong. But it looks to me like section A is for the Torch Island and the north end of the town, all islands on 67, and the Mooresville Island south of town. And then B is going to be all islands on Indiana Street, as well as the Torch on the south end of Indiana Street and the Triangular Island. So that 9,070 is for the south side, it looks like. And I think what you were talking about over there on the highway is that first total, the 66,595. But
The contractors are both here. Should we call them up and let them come on in? Sure. Yeah, come on.
See it here, is this okay?
I'd rather you come to the microphone.
So I'm Stephanie Parks with Parks Outdoor Maintenance, and this is Justin Grounds with Grounds Quality Lawn Care. And as you can see, if you read the letter, Mooresville's our hometown, you know, where we grew up. And we wanted to do something together on this project, since we both have like businesses that complement each other in some areas, you know, that he can do something better than I can, I'm gonna go to him, and like that. And so what we did was, basically, Parks Outdoor Maintenance bid down Indiana Street, like you said, the south Torch and the Triangular area. And he bid the north Torch, everything down 67 and the Mooresville sign. But that doesn't mean that if I need help, I'm gonna call him. If he needs help, he's gonna call me. We're gonna work together. So if you wanted to add the two bids up, I mean, they come to $75,665. That includes the cleanup, because Justin, do you want to speak to the ones on 67?
There's a lot to take care of down. I think a lot of people don't realize how much square footage is actually there. I walk every square foot of it, and it's in bad shape. You know, so to get it to where I can put my name on it, to where Stephanie can put her name on it, so to speak, there's a lot of work there. And the thing with it is, with any type of landscape, there's a lot of work to keep it maintained. So there's just a lot there. Both of us, I mean, they have a lot more employees than I do, but you know, it's a struggle to throw something like this on in the middle of the year, no doubt. So we're gonna need each other's help a little bit, just to be honest with you. I mean, he's probably, I don't know if we were the only bids, but there's a reason probably why. Because they know it's gonna be on Spotlight, no doubt. It's gonna be on Microscope. Everybody's gonna drive down it, and we're not gonna be able to please everybody. We will do our best. However, you know, it is, there's a lot to maintain there. And I think some people, because I had no idea, I had a number in my mind as far as square footage wise, and putting feet to wheels, so to speak, it's quite a bit. I mean, there's an acre and a half almost of just mulch beds. I think there is something on my bid, on my section, that should probably be amended and taken out, I believe. If there's irrigation for the along the highway, I don't, to my knowledge anyway, there's no irrigation in the beds. So, that on mine may need to come out because I believe the only irrigated beds are down in Indiana. So, I don't know how big a deal that is, but anyway. But yeah, we're gonna, long story short, I could talk about it for hours, but we're gonna need each other's help to be able to do this. I mean, just labor force, mainly. So,
And another thing that I talked to Justin about after we did these bids was that, like on my bid, section B, when we talk about clean up mulch beds first time, I had that price in there. And Justin's price is kind of all throughout his. You know, it's just like, it's gonna take a lot to get that cleaned up on 67, a lot.
Yeah.
And so, that was kind of like spread out. So if we got it and we move forward, that number would probably change for next year, if we can get it under
yeah.
control, because that,
And, you know, with that being said, I kind of probably have shot myself in the foot on basing it on 9 months. Seeing as how we're in the middle of June, there's not gonna be much, you know, I said from, I believe, March to November on the 9 visits of bed maintenance. I kind of took my cleanup price and threw it in all 9 months. Probably wasn't the best move. But anyway, because it's gonna take, I mean, I can't stress to you how much work there is to get it cleaned up. So, anyway, I know, you know, chances are people that really don't understand the amount of work in there, they may think, wow, that is a lot. I'm hoping that it's enough.
well, and truth is that we looked at, you know, some of his stuff, we looked at this stuff as well. And, my guys agree with his numbers.
Yeah.
The amount of time that it's gonna take to clean it up and everything. We just split it out, you know, work-wise, or, you know, we can do this, and we're gonna help him with his if he needs his help. So, but it's not as though I'm not saying that just because, you know, I know Justin, we put this together. It's because our guys looked at the numbers and said, we spot on.
Right.
That's what it's gonna take. So, you can ask somebody else, you know.
Yeah, well, I almost wish there was another bid to compare things to.
Yeah.
Because even the per yard price, that's pretty, it's kind of, it's on the lower side. But me and Stephanie both together, I mean, you know, as bad as maybe we don't want to be under a microscope on this, because it is our town, so to speak, you know, we want to see it in better shape. So that's the reason why I'm here, is, you know, to help make it look like it's maintained.
Well,
Like it was a great idea, which,
well, and
whatever.
if you look at the hourly, the mulch bid, normally, between the two of us, we may bid from $75 to $110 for mulch. That includes the mulch and the labor.
And
We
it-
both did it at 60.
It probably should be noted too, Dan Uli has, with Forest Commodities, he obviously wants to have his mulch in the medians if at all possible. He has gave us as discounted rate as what he can, you know.
And we lowered our rates.
And we
our
lowered
hourly.
a lot of our rates.
Our hourly rates. So,
So,
You think it's gonna be that much mulch every year then?
so if I was going to take away a line item on the bid scope, so to speak, one thing that, and this is throughout, this is normal on a lot of bids, is they want to have mulch turned. Turning of mulch really doesn't do much. You're almost, you know,
Sprinkle a little on top
yeah,
and
I
make it
mean,
look good.
you can dress it up with a light layer easier than you can turning it over. So that line item, no doubt, could be adjusted.
Too, if instead of using like a mini mulch, it turns gray
Yeah,
fairly quickly, but if you use, a dyed, brown, it lasts longer.
right.
So again, that's an added charge for the dye, and then we're willing to, eat some of our
Yeah, and
profit for.
there's some things in those beds, like obviously the French drain areas. As I was walking it, south of Southbridge there is a catch basin that's covered up, with mulch that's washed over the rock. So there really needs to even be maybe a line item there to add river rock over said French drain. As I'm sure everyone can remember when it was installed, they planted plants in a mud hole because there was, water. So the French drain that was installed, I think it obviously has worked. However, the combination of mulch washing into their, it's nature of the beast. It's, mulch is gonna float on a heavy rain. So no doubt, if you're looking at expenditures over the next several years in the maintenance, maybe for the mulch beds, a little high, no doubt entertain the idea of river rock.
You talked about River Rock before and the liability of having it in a meeting and traffic and wheels and
Mhm.
picking up.
Yeah, no,
And chip and seal half of our state roads.
yeah, and no, I totally understand that with Indiana Street especially, but more so maybe along 67 along the highway, there's a good, if you're in the rocks there, you're really messing up. Not saying that it's not gonna happen because we all know it will, but, there's definitely some tweaks that can be made to the maintenance program, and I think, I'm not speaking for Stephanie, but I'm sure she agrees, we'd be all on board to help, find a solution to some of this. But I think this late in the game for the season, so to speak, a good cleanup, mulch, and then get on some sort of monthly maintenance plan is gonna be the best. And I'm, for Dave's guys to be able to, I don't know how many crew members the town has, but I'm here to tell you that they probably don't have enough to really maintain it. So I don't think it's fair to him either, because I hear people say all the time, about how the beds look and, pretty much blaming the town workers, so to speak, but that's not really, they've got other things more pressing to do, so.
I blame people like me who put this in with no plan.
Right, yeah.
And quite frankly, I remember some people saying, oh, it's not that much to do, baloney.
Yeah, it's,
We do.
yeah, and with that being said, my mulch, numbers, the way I figured the mulch, it is very hard to do I'll be honest with you, the way this is gonna be done is we're going to blow it in with a blow truck. And it's hard to do, you can't hardly do an inch. You pretty much have to do 1.5 to 2 inches. Most of the time, whenever you do new mulch install, you want to be at 3 inches. So to do that, you'd be around 700 yards of mulch for the initial install. Obviously, you guys have a base there on the bid spec. It said to keep at a 2.5 to 3, maybe 3.5 inch depth. I'm assuming that means we can add 1 inch, 1.5 inches and be okay. That's what we want to do. And that's, I think those numbers could be skewed one way or the other. Like if you had, let's say you had 5 people bid on this, with the way that the bid scope was, you pretty much had to pick, do we add 1.5 inches, do we add 3 inches? If people didn't walk the bed, they probably don't realize in some areas, because the mulch has washed to the catch basin, that there's no mulch in those areas. So there are gonna be some areas of the bed where we're gonna have to add 3 inches. So it's kind of give or take. And over 67,500 square feet, every inch is gonna matter a lot. So just kind of trying to get it apples to apples, and kind of explain our bid process.
And then you think we'll spend $18,000 remulching it next year?
So, yes, the maintenance may go down once, the monthly maintenance could possibly go down a little bit. Once it's in control and you're on a program. See, like, what needs to happen is the cleanup, the mulch install. Now, after that, the monthly maintenance. Whenever we can apply the pre-emergent in the springtime, which we've already missed out, obviously pre-emergent's out for this time, but it, spraying of the chemicals and, which is another thing on the bid scope, it mentioned, herbicides and insecticides for any of the plants that are in the beds. I'll be honest with you, to do that, your number would be even more. I am going to spray for weeds. Probably not going to fertilize all the plants. I don't think we really need help with it growing. That's just going to add more maintenance. There are several plants that, due to overspray from previous people, there are some plants that have seen, that are going to need to be replaced just because of the drifting of spray. So there's, I guess what I'm getting at is that's the number. That number could easily grow depending on what your guys' expectations are, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be replaced. As I mentioned to Stephanie and Bill and Rodney agreed, there's a whole lot missing down Indiana Street from obviously people getting off track and taking it out. So there's a lot there. So that's all I can say is there's a lot. I don't want to talk in circles, but.
Do you have any questions for us?
I do, real quick, and it's more for Dave.
We can sit down.
Nope, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Dave, is the specs that you sent out for this different from the one that you requested in March? Because the numbers are.
Specs I requested.
Yeah.
March.
Yeah, I have a.
March of 16.
March of 2020, March 16th of 2020.
No, that's the only specs that we put out.
Okay.
Oh. Has it been that long ago?
Did we lose her?
I'm just going by.
That's what it did last time.
March 16th.
I'm still here.
Okay.
I think my phone disconnected.
I heard that though, but it's hard for me to hear at the moment.
Okay. Can you put that up, like Dave? You're closer.
Okay. I'm good.
What was it?
So, I see where they adjusted numbers, but if the specs are the same, then in March, bed maintenance was bed maintenance would have been higher in March. And mulch,
Hey, Dave, that was for 4 beds in front of Grace. Is that what you're looking at? Something that I believe we just gave you guys some numbers at one point, just in front of it.
okay.
That was a couple years ago.
Was it? No, I don't know.
I have it stamped March 16th of 2020.
Yeah. May have been. Just so you guys have an idea. Yeah. So that was 4 beds, but.
I remember Rodney called me and he wanted to give me a price, and I said, yeah, go ahead and
Right.
see what it's gonna take,
So we did, I think that's where Grace was asking about it too.
It was sent today. Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Any questions from Jessica? She may not be able to hear me that far away. Sorry. Jessica, do you have any questions regarding the gateway maintenance at this point? Do we have any sort of motion?
Well, normally what happens with the bid specs is that you take it under advisement.
Yeah.
Dave will review them to make sure that they match with what he put out there. It's important that you go basically on what the specs were that were advertised. When you have one bid, I usually like to confirm that the advertisement were out there in public so that it's not like we just have a single bidder. It's just that other people did have the opportunity to bid, so.
I know they were on Facebook, correct, and the town website,
Yes.
both, plus the publication.
Okay.
But we don't need a motion to take it under advisement then?
There would be a motion to take it under advisement.
Okay.
Make a motion that we take it under advisement and make sure that Dave looks over the specs and it is in compliance.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Oh, sorry, Tom. Oh, we have a second? We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. Shane Williams votes aye. Motion passes.
Shane, I have one question for the council.
Oh,
With the companies that put this in, I'm familiar with both of them. There's no doubt they would do awesome work around town here. Where would we pay for this out of?
That's the question of the day, isn't it?
I think we take the bids under five and try to bid that.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's some items that we can trim off there, like you said,
The mulch turning,
the irrigation that coming down in, 67.
yeah, and definitely on, part A, and I think you'll see that part A and part B, the irrigation numbers are probably the same, because it's turn off, shut off, and 5 visits. So you could take that number out of A and it stay in B, for the Indiana.
How much did you guys think you want the mulch on, I mean, the irrigation on? And then wipe that out.
But I think it's important that the council act on what was put out there as the bid and then
Right.
award based off that bid, and then we can negotiate things out after the bid is awarded, so.
Yeah, that's why the mulch turning is on there, is because it was part of the scope, so to speak. So,
We have a line item gateway maintenance.
What page is that on, Shane?
It's on the first one, under 220.
Really gonna have to negotiate with them.
Ready for the next item? Mooresville Kids Christmas Fund update.
Okay, and we named it the Mooresville Kids Fund, I believe. Children's Fund.
Yeah.
So we established that fund at the last meeting, and there was a deposit today. The total of the deposit was $30,376.13. I spoke with Mr. Mathis today. He indicated that he thought it was in the best interest for the program and for the children that all of the money be deposited into the town. He didn't want to have two competing type of things for the same cause, so like with the way that it was set up, and as long as it's going for the kids, that he would just allow the town to run with it all. So it's being expressed to me that this reflects the entirety of the balance of that account.
What was that total?
$30,376.13. That's what came in today?
Yes.
Okay.
376.13.
That's substantially more than what was offered at the last meeting, which was 10,000. So you're confident that that's the whole amount that's in the account?
I mean, I'm
Based
taking,
on everything you've got?
based upon the information that I was provided by Mr. Mathis, this is, and like you said, I was able to determined that over the past 3 years, there was $10,000 that was made out to a Mooresville town entity. And so I think that's the number that was out there last time, but this was, and I think it's already been deposited into the account, or
It came in,
then, has this been deposited yet?
It'll go tomorrow because it came in after 2 o'clock today.
well,
So that's my update, sorry.
there's no way for us to audit this account because it was a private account, correct?
No, we don't have any audit of power or authority on
What about the state board? Can they audit it on their own?
that. I mean, if the State Board of Accounts wanted to take it up as a suspect account, they would still have to get some other sort of endorsement, either from the state police or from a court to do something like that, because it's not a town account. So if it was, the State Board of Accounts has the authority to audit all town accounts. If you're going outside of that, they would have to have some sort of other.
Right, because this account was not in the town.
Correct.
Although the checks were made to the town, so a portion of them were. So you think this is the best outcome for taxpayers, for the fund, for the children?
I mean, if you're asking my opinion, I think this is a really great resolution. So that there's seed money in there, the town can run with their fundraising now and deposit the funds in. I think it is, again, from what I've seen, it is all that is in that account, so.
I wish we could audit the account just to clear that, but I don't think, I mean, there's no good option to do that. That wouldn't cost taxpayers a bunch of money, and
Correct.
I think overall, I think it's a victory for the taxpayers and the children, and it's gonna be in an account that now can be followed by the public. There'll be a record of the transactions from now on. I think that's good for transparency for the fund itself.
Now, given the fact that I have adjusted my contract with the town and have that retainer, if you want to engage me to bill hourly on this, I'd be happy to do so and spend a gajillion hours on that. But that would be outside of the retainer.
Can you
for
turn mulch?
Sure.
Any other comments from the members of the council?
I'd just like to add that the comment was made, it's a bad ending to a good thing, which couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, this is gonna continue on as it has in years past. You know, it's just a situation we weren't, didn't have knowledge of this account. So, I mean, it continues on, and what it stops is being held hostage of our money. So we're in control of it now, as we should be, and I think it's a great thing, and it will continue.
Jessica, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Other members? Any members of the audience? Okay. In our packet, we have this ordinance that talks about the Christmas for Kids program.
Yeah, I have to amend the language of that. Sorry, I did not get that done. So you guys took action on the item, and I just did not adjust the language of that ordinance and bring it with me, so.
Okay, so there's no new ordinance to pass.
You've already passed the ordinance, it's been created, and you passed it on first reading.
That confused me, so when
Yeah.
I saw this end up in my packet, it confused me, because
So I'll have something for you to sign. I'll
What,
just send you something for signature.
what governs this fund?
Now?
Yeah, the ordinance itself?
Yeah, so the way that the ordinance was set up, it restricts the usage of the fund. It's a non-reverting fund, so the State Board of Accounts will audit it each year. Diana's responsible for keeping track of all the deposits and all the expenditures, and then that will all run through her office.
Is there any way, $30,000 is a lot of money that's supposed to be spent on kids that, in my view, was not spent on kids if it's in an account. Is there any way to limit this fund to say, no more than $5,000 or something carries over year to year? Is there anything that governs the fund?
You don't have that in this ordinance. I mean, this ordinance created the fund and said it's going to be utilized on certain expenditures. There's no restrictions as to the limit of what can be carried over. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that will really be determined upon the number of children who need help and what's out there. But if you want to make an adjustment to the ordinance, we can do that as well. This ordinance says that you have a fund, you're creating the non-reverting fund, deposits go into that fund, and those deposits can only be used for this program.
Shane, could I comment just real quick on that?
Sure.
In the past, the way, and I just learned this year because of the way we did it, we got all of our kids or children through the high school or through the Mooresville Consolidated School System. They would send a list of, somehow they get these, I don't know if they apply for it or what they do, but they get a list of children, and then we run it through the charity tracker with Churches of Mission and try to make sure that there is no duplication. And then that amount of the kids is what we go with to, and in the past, recently, we've been going to Walmart quite a few times, and that's where we've been going. And I want to say we had 14 families, and I want to say around 28 kids is what we did last year, and I think we were right at $7,000. So we have a set item list of what we would like to get them for Christmas. It's usually some clothes and usually a toy or two based upon the price of the toy per child in each family. So that's probably why you're getting that. It's not getting all spent, it's not. It's based upon how many children or families that we get to try to supply with clothing and toys.
Is there anything anywhere that governs this, or is it just something you do?
It's just something we've always
There's
done
no
in the past.
written process or anything anywhere?
Well, like I said, the process, we get our list of children from Mooresville Consolidated School System for children that live in the Mooresville area. And then we run it through the charity tracker with Churches in Mission, make sure there's no duplications and they're getting something from somewhere else. So that way we try, if we have way too many, they would shove it to a different charity to try to help, that charity would handle that family.
Am I wrong? I just think there should be something that governs how it operates for
Well,
the future.
I would say now, that's something that you
Am I
have to
wrong?
come up with.
I want to make sure that we have enough for the next year. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously assume that next year is not going to have any revenue income. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we don't know where the charities are going to be this year.
And I was told in the past, sometimes that was an issue where they were limited on funds or getting close to being limited on funds, and then some years they would beef it up a little bit, is what I was told.
Is that something he writes or does, or just leave it up to the police department, or what?
Well, this is a town,
I just don't see how that governs what it does.
well, it governs how the funds can be used, but that's the only rules that are set forth here are that it's a non-reverting fund, so the funds carry over from year to year, and that it can only be used for this program. I mean, that's the only governance that's in this ordinance. If you want to set up additional rules for the program, I mean, you can go through that process.
If no one else, they make the motion, so it's up to the council. So we'll go on to the next item then.
What's that, Matt?
I must say, one year, I know we only had like 3 or 4 families.
Yeah.
So it's a hit and miss every year.
Okay, any more discussion? No? The next item on the agenda is sewer hookup for 655 State Road 267. Mr. Mike Petrell. Come on up.
And we bought the house there at 665 about 5 years ago. It's got a faulty septic system right now. We are hooked up to city water, and so we're facing this situation of either having to put a new septic field in or possibly connect with city sewer, which is all around us. And, but we're not actually part of the city, we're still outside the city index. So we're asking if it's possible. We spoke with David, and it looks like out of the 3 options that were possible, that only possibly 2 would work, which would require us to go across one of our neighbors' properties, and we'd have to get obviously their permission, and they'd have to give us an easement to be able to do that. But we wanted, before we began any conversations with neighbors, we wanted to have this conversation with you to see if that's even possible.
What's the process for this? I've seen it done from the public point of view in a meeting, but I'm not sure.
The only thing, I mean, later down the road, if they do go on, they can't find annexation, is that correct? That was one of the stipulations that we always had. As far as going on other people's property, I'm not sure.
So normally you have a utility waiver of annexation, so it's a waiver to the remonstrance period or remonstrance right. So there's been some changes recently, but I think they're limited to a 15-year duration on that waiver now. So from the time that they sign that waiver and hook up, I would have to check that to be sure. But it would be a waiver in case the town wanted to file an annexation petition that would incorporate that area. Those individuals that hooked up to sewer would not be able to remonstrate and fight the annexation.
Is your solution, your best solution, what is it? It looked like you could come south on 267 or east across the neighbor's property. I think there's 2 lots there into, what is that little subdivision?
Woodland Hills.
Woodland Hills, was that his
I
best
think,
solution?
yeah, I think when Dave and I looked at it, we originally thought we'd come straight down our property to 67 and hook up. But what I understand from David is there's a power pump or sub pump north of us, so we'd be hooking in on the back side of that, which David said probably is not a good plan. So then it would mean we'd have to go the other 2 directions. East would be going across to our back neighbor, and then if we went north, we have another neighbor that bought a lot out of that subdivision, and it's just empty, and we could run right along both properties, we could run right along their property line.
The one going east would go back, would it go to that cul-de-sac on Woodland?
Correct.
Is it, but there's a 4 lane coming down 267?
Yeah, it's, now, I'm pretty sure it's a gravity to the force of the lift station in Hopkins gravel pit parking lot. From the lift station heading south is force main, but north of that lift station is gravity into it. So coming down 267, you would have to turn and go back north to get into the gravity line. You don't want to tap into a force main line. I was advised by engineers that it just doesn't work. So it would be a very difficult and a long lateral for him to tap into the line on 267. I think we're still 400 east.
Yeah, I think it's under 500 east and about 700. Yeah, oh, 400 something. I think it's 700. I think it's 700 going east and 400 something going north.
But north, when you said that you have to go across property, is that going all the way down to, is that coming from your house to 267 and then going north along 267? Or is that going, going in behind?
Did you ask if he was to take the east route?
If he takes the east route, he's basically going to go right up to the cul-de-sac. If he takes the north route, what's he got to do?
He would start out going west down his drive to 267. He would have to turn and go back north to the top side of the lift station and go under the road and tie in where it's gravity.
I think, if I can exact, I think that's the west direction. I think what you're asking would be having.
No, I'm asking the north, what he's talking about, the one north across 267.
Okay, okay.
North.
So we can come down to 67, then go north and go across. Yeah. Or we could go north from our property, across John Atkins, if you would allow it.
Yeah, but we've always in the past, and you get into a little bit of trouble running laterals across private property.
Okay.
Neighbors get mad, things change. Is there,
It's a tough nut to crack, that's for sure.
if we ran a gravity main on the east side of 267 north, and then cut across, where does that go? Does that go all the way to Pioneer Country? Is Pioneer Country service there?
Pioneer Country, Woodland Hills, they both come down the hill and then to.
Is Woodland Hills upstream of the force main there?
Yes.
How many properties are between him and Woodland Hills? Or the,
Probably just John Atkins.
But there's a pond on that.
yeah, but where it crosses, when it comes out of Woodland Hills and crosses 267 to a pump there, or a lift station in force main. Where is the main coming out of Woodland Hills? Is it in the middle of the road there?
I don't know when it exits Woodland Hills, if it's in the middle of the road, but coming down the hill, it is in the road. Comes down past the big.
But from his house to that, to tie into that, not so he doesn't have to bore into 267, tie right into that main, that's 700 feet.
That's the ones, that's going across John, right?
Yeah, it's going across, but I want you to go down to the road rather than going across him, because we should have some type of right of way
Okay. I got you.
to be able to run that there.
So he's saying go down to 67 and go over and tie in at their entrance.
If that's the one.
Yeah, so it would probably be 900 feet, maybe. Because it's probably about 400 feet to the road. And then you gotta go back probably roughly 450 feet.
How many houses on 267 from there at Jeff's gas house are there between there and going down to Woodland Hills? And could we, is the topography there to be able to pick all those up on gravity if we ran a gravity line north to Woodland?
I would think so, it's pretty flat. I think if we had a main, pick those houses up. Obviously, engineering would have to be involved, but I think it's pretty flat if we get a gravity fall for all those houses. To tie in at the intersection of Woodland Hills, 267.
And you gravity across. And do you know what, off the top of your head, what developer availability is? Oh, there it is, never mind. One thing that we've done in the past is if we could open this up, if we could get main there, to be able to tie in those houses, how many houses are there? You know? Sometimes we can offset the offsite oversizing out of our developer availability there.
Yeah, and how you want to extend that main is up to you, and it's just the feasibility study really.
That's what I'm trying to figure out is how many houses.
Yeah. One thing that is going, that I think it's important that everybody understands is The town will be responsible for any main out there, any laterals, and it sounded like you may be talking about a very, very long lateral here off the main. That entire lateral is the homeowner's responsibility, and so that's a lot of pipe that you're gonna be maintaining.
Yeah, we realize we have to install it, and we have to maintain it.
Okay.
Yes.
There's usually, how many feet in between clean outs? 100 feet in between clean outs, so when you ask your neighbor, hey, can I run across your yard? I also need to be able to run a road router there, and can I borrow the power off your house? So that's where we usually get in trouble there.
Which the right of ways would have to be taken.
What's happened in the past on laterals across private property, what have you seen?
Well, you know, normally they're nightmares. So laterals are going to be the responsibility of the individual homeowners. It's not going to be the town obtaining those. And because of that, but they would have to make sure that they would get that easement detailed specifically and recorded with that property, which outlines all of the things that may be necessary for that. And so, you know, when we talk about the municipal side of it, if we go across private property, we acquire those easements and we pay for those easements, and then we build everything in, like the right to go in, repair, maintain, replace those lines, and so you have all those rights built in. The one thing that we know is that lines fail. At some point, it will fail, and it will need to be fixed one way or the other or replaced, and so that's really where issues arise, is when you have to go dig that thing up. And then, yeah. So, yeah, laterals across other private properties can oftentimes get to hairy issues.
Are you completely broke down as far as you know, pumping up, or you still getting by some to where we can have a little bit of time to consider more, where are you at as far as your current septic system?
Yeah, it's, needs replaced, but it's functioning.
Okay.
It's just not functioning well, and we know that. So yeah, we've got some time on that. And honestly, we just have thought about this because we thought, we're not sure. We're limited, we think, on where we can put our septic. So we're assuming the septic field's gonna have to go where the old one's at. And I don't know, I need to get some idea. Check. And we're wondering, well, can they put a brand new system in over an old system that's kind of overused and flooded? And I don't know that either, so I'm thinking it might be just the easiest thing. At the time, we thought, let's just hook up to the city, but obviously we didn't realize it was gonna be this complicated. That's not your fault, I understand. I just appreciate you guys, and Dave's been a great help. I just appreciate you guys giving some consideration and thinking this through. And if it's not feasible, it's not feasible. I get that, I understand that.
I'd like to have a little more time just to try to figure out what we can maybe put him on our agenda for our next meeting and be able to answer these questions a little more intelligently.
Okay.
All I was able to do from the agenda was just pull it up and take a look at where it was at.
I appreciate that.
Will you be able to talk to your neighbors before next week and see if that's even a possibility, if they're gonna allow that, or?
I can, yes. We can communicate with them.
Yeah.
Honestly, we probably only got one route, but you never know. The one neighbor's pretty cantankerous, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, I mean, if both of them say no, then you know it's.
Yeah, we know it's right. We got good relationships with the one neighbor behind us. But yeah, I'll contact both of them this week and start that conversation.
Okay.
There's a little more time because the next meeting's Tuesday, July 7th. Do you happen to be gone then for July 4th or anything?
No.
Okay, so because of the calendar, you have a few more days there between the meetings, so maybe that'll help
Okay,
give you some more time.
July 7th?
Yeah,
All right. All right.
she's gonna go ahead and put you on the agenda. If you
Thank you.
decide otherwise, just let her know.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay,
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you. So next item under the agenda under new business is Linnell Division of Mestec Inc. and it's a CF1.
So they have their compliance statement, which has been provided to the town council for an abatement. This is an abatement from 2013, it looks like. At that time, the SB1 estimates were 3.3 million in salaries. The actual total was 5.2 million. The number of employees retained was accurate in 83. Number of additional employees, they estimated 7 at that time. The total was 13. And so the salaries have gone from 300,000 on the estimated new employees to 1.9 million. The council can find them to be in substantial compliance or not in substantial compliance, but that's just a summary of where they are.
What's this? This says 2016. This says 2013.
Yes.
This says 2013 here. Doesn't matter.
It looks like it's 2 separate resolutions. A personal property, so I don't know if there's been a secondary one.
Do they all have it in front of them?
I called them today, Jewel, because I had looked back in 2019 and saw they had more than one. So I called them today and asked if that was the only CF1 that they were submitting, and she said yes. And there was a total of 6 pages in that attachment.
Do they have copies of this? Do they have copies? See, this says 2013, this says 2016.
Maybe the 2013 is already. Tom, do you have any history on this, CF1?
I mean, just, sorry, looking through, it looks like they did it, may have done an addition to the building.
Resolution 1116. Doesn't look like it.
I'm seeing 2 different dates is the reason I'm questioning.
There's really 3. So you have
Okay.
resolution 10, 2016 for data designation of 11/15/2016.
Okay.
It looks like then you have a date from April 30th, 2018, which looks like it's an amendment referring back to the 11/15/2016 issuance, and then you have this October date, which refers back to resolution 2, 2014. And then, one of the options that the council has is to ask for the taxpayer to come in and just answer some questions regarding their abatement as well.
I'm only seeing the two dates. I see 11, 15, and 16.
See if this filing, resolution 2014, but this filing, the estimated start date was 2013.
Yeah.
On this one.
Oh, here we go.
And then these two, this way. On this one, you're referring to designation of November 2016.
Yeah.
Resolution 10 from 2016. And on this one, it looks like something happened in 2018.
4:30.
Yeah,
Yeah,
14,
okay.
2018, referring back to this. And another thing I can do is I can reach out to,
I don't think they sent enough paperwork.
yeah,
That's what I can do.
I mean, I can reach out and inquire more if the town would want, or you can just leave it upon them if you would like.
We need a motion to table since it was on the agenda. Can we get one?
I don't think I need a motion table. I mean, I can just dig in if you'd like for me to.
You want to keep this? I'll give it to him. He's got it, I think. So we're,
Got two other resolutions there, but they don't have.
Yeah.
paperwork with them.
I just saw a bunch of dates and didn't think it looked right. So, move on?
Yep, I'll contact them and provide the council more information at the next meeting.
Okay. Next item under new business is the additional appropriation. And I think the treasurer's just gonna read a statement regarding this.
This request for additional appropriation is to spend $126,555, which the town has on hand due to the sale of the Old Street Garage to the Indiana American Water. The proposed additional appropriation will cover the cost of the new street garage and for the street department on Park Drive, and it's currently under construction, is my understanding. This dollar amount was not included in the 2020 budget, so the revenue from the sale has to be, basically, it was put into the general fund account because we didn't know where the money came from when we purchased it years ago, so it resides in the general, and all we're wanting to do is appropriate it to a line item in the general account.
Does this takes a public hearing as well?
Right, so we advertise a public hearing for today.
Yep.
For this ordinance.
So go ahead and open the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll open the public hearing for, this will be ordinance number 8 for the, I'll just give the dollar amount as well. It's $126,555 for the sale of property that were to the water company, basically. That happened when, last year?
Yes.
Towards the end of the year?
Yeah, the reason it wasn't in the budget was because we hadn't sold it when we did the budget itself. And then the other side of it was they changed as far as how you receive that money back in. And it was if you knew the account, you could put it back in there. When we sold the police department, we knew where it was paid out of, and we were able to put that back in that correct fund.
Right.
And I think Samuel Ward paid for this out of his right front pocket, where the street garage was. So the Humboldt or Baker Tilly Page advised us to go ahead and put it back into the general fund to be able to additionally appropriate it out of there for them. At the time of the sale, I mean, at the time when we discussed selling it, it was, we had an interested buyer. We had the promise, if you will, that they would enhance that section there, clean it all up. And then we also had the desire to move all of our stuff to one location.
So the public hearing is open. Do we have anybody from the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Seeing none, we take a motion to close the public hearing.
Close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilman Cook.
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthen.
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley.
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye, and Shane Williams votes aye.
Now, this is first reading of this ordinance, so it requires a second reading where the council can vote to suspend rules.
Do I have a motion there?
I'm sorry, say again.
This is the first reading of the ordinance, so it can either just be read for the second reading at the next meeting.
Okay. Motion to approve ordinance 8, 2020.
What, so if we're going to take action today on that,
Motion to suspend.
we'll have to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules to approve on first reading.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. I'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Cook.
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthen.
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley.
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye, and Shane Williams votes aye. Now we take up the ordinance itself.
Motion to approve ordinance 8, 2020, transferring the funds additional appropriation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll do a roll call. Councilman Cook.
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthen.
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley.
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. Shane Williams votes aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the ISI contract. This is for the Phase 1 South Side Sewer Project.
Good evening, Kent Elliott with Banyan Engineering. And what I have this evening is the contract documents for consideration for signature this evening. We opened bids back on the March 3rd council meeting for the Phase 1 sanitary sewer improvement project, which includes the Merriman and Rainbow lift station replacements along with the related lines that goes with that, sanitary sewer lines. On the 18th, we've awarded the bids to Infrastructure Systems Incorporated out of Orleans, Indiana. And since then, we've worked through bond information, got the bonds, and now we have the contracts ready to be signed so they can start construction. Any questions?
Just for public record, we did the bond anticipation for.
Correct.
Legal, have you read the contract?
I have, and
How long is this contract, by the way?
193 pages.
Did you read all 193 pages?
I read all 190.
I skipped over 102.
I skipped over apparently one page. I caught everything else. But I read all of those and didn't track them my time at all.
Do you turn mulch?
You'd probably rather than read through that contract.
But no, it had all the legal issues in it. The one thing that I raised, Kent was able to point me to the right page where it was located. And so we're good on the legal side of it.
Do we have questions for Kent? Any questions from the audience? Thank you.
Motion to approve contract with ISI.
Oh, what's the dollar amount?
It's like 2,200,000 I think 10,000. I can tell you exactly here.
Okay, I just think that should
There was
be.
a portion of that.
That includes the water main as well. So we awarded it with it included. If we decide we're not going to do that section of the contract, we'll just issue a change order at that time. sift through the 192 pages, I'll find it here.
193.
I mean, the amount's been said in the public many times, but I think
Yeah,
it'd be
it's
good.
like $2,210,000 roughly. 176,000 of that is what you're talking about, Tom, for the water main. The remainder of that is the Sand Tube Sewer project. So.
Bill Baker, go ahead. There's- $2,210,671,000.
Yep. And 50 cents.
And 50 cents. Keep this change.
So, just for information, the construction duration is 270 days to substantial completion and 300 for final completion. So,
What is the start date if we approve the contract today?
notice to proceed would be effective this evening's meeting date. We do have to get it signed by the contractor, so that's something, Jewel, if it, is that a?
Yeah, and that can push it back and then clearing out some of this property as well, just to finalize those. We got a lot of it taken care of, but.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthen?
Aye.
Councilman Worthen votes aye. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. Shane Williams votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. I guess at the end of the meeting, Shane, if I could have you sign these, and then I'd like to take these back to ship them to the contractor tomorrow, so that they can get assigned
We'll have a hard copy.
after we get those signed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, Police Department FMLA.
I was hoping to have the paperwork for the FMLA. I do not have it tonight at the doctor's office for the employee that was requesting the FMLA. Changed the procedure from last time, so now they send it to an outside department for that doctor's office who fills out the FMLA paperwork, so I do not have that. I've talked to Clerk Walmsley, and she's going to put me on the agenda for next town board meeting to take care of that.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I didn't know if you wanted to segue into department head reports or not.
Sure, we might as well, since good point.
Okay.
So that takes us out of new business and on to the next item, which would be department head reports. So since you're at the podium, go for it.
Thank you. First thing is the cars. We have all 4 cars now. Clerk Walmsley is taking care of the paperwork to get those things, one purchased or leased or whatever, and then registered so we can at least start getting them on the road. The problem I have right now is I'm down 2 vehicles. So, and hopefully by the end of the year, we will have 3 more officers hired, which I will go into later. I would like to keep at least 2. In the past, we were used to have at least 2 pool cars. In the last couple of years, we've been reduced to 1 pool car. We have 5 reserves now, and so they're vying for 1 car, which we don't even have now. And then I would like to keep it 2, possibly 3. I think whenever car 6409 was totaled, they got about approximately $80,000 for it, I believe. I don't know the exact on that one. I know on the one that we currently was totaled, we got $32,131.45. So my question to you is, my request is, I would like to keep all 4 vehicles. Trade-in value is minimal on all 4 of them. And based upon the either 2 16s and the 2 15s, those vehicles should be paid off. And one, we don't know what's gonna happen when we have the budget meeting on the 22nd. So, you know, are we gonna be able to get cars next year? That's up in the air, because I know you guys have voiced concerns about, you know, what are we getting our tax revenue, the food and beverage revenue, all that kind of stuff. So we don't know what next year is like. So that's my concern.
How many miles do these cars have?
The highest one is at last check was, I believe, 66,674, but that was in March, so add maybe 2,000 to that.
And you have your trade-in values there?
The ones were quoted by Ford for the trade-in was 7,000 for a 2015, 8,000 for a 2015, 9,500 for a 2016, and there was 6,000 for a 2016. They were saying that it has structural damage. That's based off doing their estimates off Carfax.
How structural?
Something to do with the underbody. I think it's something that's an insurance thing, even though it's structurally sound, there was damage to it, so that's why it's got a reduced rating.
Involved in a crash?
Yes, it was involved in a crash.
Any other issues with the cars? I mean, have we had any maintenance issues or?
No. Other than the regular stuff, you know, brakes, rotors,
No, nothing major.
nothing major, no major issues with any of the cars.
Tom, could you explain the normal rotation of these? Do you get 4 a year, or how does that work?
I think when the air freshener quits smelling, they just turn it in, isn't that how that usually goes?
I know one time we were doing 6, then we did 5, and this year we were down to 4.
I think what he's saying is 100% true. When this started in October, we were looking at I want to say, and I don't have that paperwork, 15.5 and 16.5 is what we were offered on each vehicle.
That was their preliminary, said they were going to do.
That was a true offer. We went through that. The town that offered that had some interesting things happen there. We tried to stay on top of it, and it just got away from us. Then, you know, we're waiting 9 months here for cars that we ordered back in October.
Right.
No one's fault.
Right.
So, you know, Jeff made the comment that he thought, you know, these are still decent vehicles, that maybe we need to take a look at keeping all of them. We're down, like you said, 2 vehicles.
Correct.
I would rather keep them than give them away. And I think that's what we're doing at those prices.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ford knows as well as anyone what the market's driven at, but I'm still concerned. We had this same conversation in August of last year. These are new models that we're getting. They're 21 models, and they're a new redesigned, new and improved, and man, they look good. But nice to have a backup plan because we don't know what's gonna happen. They're all new transmissions, maybe even new powertrains that haven't been out in this arena yet. This is new for us. So.
What do you think is a normal lifespan, like years and mileage wise, for a police car?
Well, I can tell you what other agencies are doing. Most of their cars are running 100,000. And, well, IMPD, they still have Crown Victorias.
And how many does yours have, Jeff?
Pardon me?
What were you saying? How many does yours have?
Quite a few. Quite a few.
Why are you embarrassed to say?
Rather not comment on my one.
Probably don't want to talk about it. But here's what I can tell you is in 1998 we had 5 cars, and I think the lowest mileage car that we had at that point in time was 100,000 miles.
I can tell you I was driving an 89 Caprice at that time because that was pretty much close to my higher year.
So, I mean, it's one of those deals where we have come a long way. I don't think we're taking a step backwards as far as saying, hey, we're going to keep these cars. But I also don't know what's going to happen next year. What he said about the revenues, you know, I sang this song and danced this dance. It could be bad. You know, some of the preliminary estimates are 25 to 30% down. And that's across the board. I think we're gonna be all right because we did move the payment schedule into CCD, and that is a property tax driven account. So I think we're gonna be safe as far as being able to make the payments. But just in case, I think we can keep it. I left a note for you and asked if the one vehicle that we put brakes all the way around.
I'm checking on that. I pulled that with Tammy, and I'm checking on that now.
Yeah.
I was supposed to get a response Monday. I have not.
But I mean, even if it is, that one there it had 65,000
Yeah.
miles on it. And it was a 15,
I believe, yes.
And we put brakes on it. It should be good for another, unless they drive like someone. But it should be good for another year or so. These Explorers have been good vehicles.
They are very nice vehicles. They're an all-around vehicle. They're great for the summertime. They're great for the wintertime.
We're losing, we had counted on the trade-in value to buy the equipment and to pay down part of the payment. We were fortunate enough that we bought the equipment back last year when we thought we were gonna get them last year. So the equipment is bought and paid for and here. So we're good there.
Yes. The only thing that I would need to ask for later, and I might even be able to do a little juggling with my stuff, is a couple of extra radios and a couple of something like that. So just some stuff that we don't have for additional cars that we're going to need.
But we should be able to outfit, we've got the stuff to outfit everything that the 4 cars that we're getting.
Yes.
Did you make a decision, and I know that it was brought up before, did you make a decision on color codes or colors?
We're going with a one color vehicle. It'll be a solid black and with a new stripe package.
And the only reason that I asked that is because we had countered some of that trade-in value to do the
So
black and white.
we actually saved quite a bit of money with the paint and the striping package. Am I just reiterating what he said? I don't know. But I know, I think a previous councilman, and it might even, I can't remember, made that, like going to solid color. And, based upon my staff, we decided to go that way and save some money. Not to mention,
But
if we
still
ever have more.
Still well marked.
Very well marked,
None of
yes.
these ghost badges or anything like that.
No. These got reflective stripe packages. It's very well striped and lit.
So I think we're going to be all right. I know Diane has checked with, I had asked for and received permission to try to find different financing, and Diane's reached out to a couple of the lady at Ford Motor Company does not like me, but we're at least, she goes to the meetings, that's how I know. So, we're working with them. We're making them toe the line because that's what we're at. We'll see what happens. One of the local banks currently does some police vehicles for another community, a local community, and so I'm excited to see what they have to say. We may be in a little bit of a different situation, or current purchases, or a 3-year lease with a $1 buyout, and this may be that we buy the vehicle right off the bat and make payments on it.
Kevin, where are you at on your car? How many miles, what year are you?
Mine's right at, I think around 32. And it's 2017.
What's your plan for that? You plan on getting you an unmarked and putting that into service?
It all depends upon what happens next year. I know me and Lieutenant Rogers are going to expand our view of other vehicles to get the best bang for the buck. SUVs, trucks, whatever. We're going to look at anything and everything.
Can you get something that flips some mulch?
Maybe carry mulch, but that'd be all right.
Any discussion from the audience? Do we need a motion?
I will give you an update. I mean, I assume that I received full permission to try to figure out how to pay for these cars, who we were going to do that. So I was going to tell Diane to sign the paperwork as soon as we decided we were going to do it. But I think we had a dollar amount that we approved, and I promise you it will be
Yep.
that or less.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as keeping the old ones.
That's what I meant.
We hadn't got to that point because we never agreed to, we never signed anything to trade them.
Correct.
Okay.
So I mean,
So
right
that-
now,
So there's no action we need to take, he just doesn't trade them or doesn't sell them?
keep for sale by owner.
Okay.
Well, I hate to keep putting my hand out, but I've got another item. This is, we discussed this a while back, it's the server with a couple of add-ons that we discussed a while back. Again, the server is end of life, the software for part of the server is end of life. Did you, I made enough for everybody, so. Okay. And I know Jessica's not here. It's got pretty much a breakdown. Some of these are wants, not needs, like the CAD to CAD. The CAD to CAD is basically something in an emergency situation where other dispatches can dispatch our calls and see all of our work, like Morgan County. Like in worst case scenario, we could let them, they would have CAD to CAD where they could hook up with our system up here, and then if need be, they can dispatch our calls, take our calls, and we can do all of our Spillman stuff through them. They have that currently with Johnson County, which is one of their PSAP backups. But they have voiced interest in doing that with us also, because we have did backup 911 communications for them in some of their instances where they had issues, and Johnson County had issues. So that's just a want. The other, the Server 2 solutions, the remote migration, that's a need. The server's end of life, it's going to be out of any kind of no upgrades, no support or anything like that. And I'm only giving this to you to look at until next meeting. So I will have Steve here, and he will be able to explain a lot more of this if you have questions. We've talked about the NIVERS before, which is a program that basically data mines our system in order to put it in a format that the state and the federal government wants in order for the statistics. And basically, that's what they're saying if we don't do that, it's hard to get federal and state funding grants. That's kind of a need/want. And I think that's the only things that are on there.
How important is this CAD to CAD for you, Kevin?
It's like anything, when you need it, it's great.
How often would we have used it in the last year?
I think we've been a backup for county maybe once or twice last year.
We've been a backup for them.
Yeah, where something's went down there, and I know they had one instance where their system went down and Johnson County's system went down, and so we were the backup for Morgan County. I cannot give you the
But
dates.
they've never been our backup. We haven't had to use them as backup.
Let's say our 911 goes down, they would take over answering our 911 system. And it could be just a technical error.
That's 911 though. This is CAD, right?
This is CAD.
This is on our computer.
This is something where, they could dispatch, take calls, and, they would have access to the system and be able to run it.
But we've never had a situation where we had to have, could have used somebody to run our CAD.
I can't think of one.
But we have theirs.
Huh?
But we have theirs.
Not their Spillman system, just, for other situations.
Just 911.
Yeah, just 911. Or IDAX, something where their IDAX went down and we would do their IDAX for them.
That's what this CAD does.
CAD's more of the recording system,
Exactly.
them being able to
Right.
dispatch us and
I'm talking
still
this
have
right
access.
here, this
The CAD.
CAD.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's CAD. It's the CAD program.
This is calls.
Yeah. Mhm.
And we've never had that in the last year.
Not to my knowledge. Like I said, it's just a want, not a need.
To have for
Exactly.
almost $9,000.
Hey Chief, this says this quote expires June 30th.
Yes, and Steve, he said, based upon our interest, he would get with them, and they seem like they would be more likely to extend that.
Okay.
But I will get with them again. The only thing they didn't put in here, which I think you forgot, and I don't know if I have the other one, it had the NIVERS, and I believe that was 13,000. Was that correct?
That's
If I
what
remember
he
right.
said today, yes.
That was 13,000, and they're willing to, because we tried to get real quick because we wanted to get a new quote, because the other quote expires tomorrow.
Is it Indiana IBR?
Yes,
It's here.
it is.
It's on the second page at the top.
Okay, I see it now, I'm sorry, I didn't see the top. But they're willing, granted, that's the total 50/50 payments down there, if you were to do the whole thing. That would be reduced if we just go with the server and the data migration.
The data migration has to happen to update.
That has to
take
happen
everything.
because take all the data off the old server and put it onto the new server. And again, this is just for your review. I was gonna get on the agenda next month to further discuss that. Any questions on that I might be able to answer right now?
What is that, IDR or whatever?
That's the NIBRS, that's the, basically the old CDR. It's a reporting, report that goes to the state and the federal government.
Are you
And
getting
that-
any state or federal money right now?
The only thing that I've personally applied for lately is the BEST grant. We're re-upping the BEST grant. That's the only thing that I've applied for.
And if we don't do the.
Not received an award letter for that. Huh?
And if we don't do the, NIBR stuff, it doesn't qualify for that grant.
I don't know. I think it's based upon, if that's one of the places they go through for the reporting or get reports on that. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you for that. The next thing is the sirens. I've talked to Councilman Williams a little bit at that. We're waiting on the control board. Once that's in, we can migrate the data to the new computer. And then the SOP is pretty much done, but I can't finish it until we're able to get the new software on the computer and see how to articulate it in the SOP, how it's addressed as far as the mobile app, and how to connect it with the National Weather Service to where they control that activation.
Are you thinking about a monthly audible test?
Yes.
Like maybe the first Friday of the month at 5 p.m. or something like that?
That is definitely something we were going to integrate into that, yes.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Do you think that'll be in the next month?
That's what I'm hoping. It's all based upon how quick we get the board in.
And the circuit board's for the newbie siren?
That is for the
right?
newbie siren, that is correct.
Okay.
The last thing I have is the hiring process. We were able to start that back up. We had to stop it because we couldn't do any of the stuff because of the COVID restrictions. We're having a physical agility and written test on June 27th at Mount Gilead. They've allowed us to use their facility inside for anything inside, especially vehicle order, and we'll do the run out there. We have 3 openings now due to the resignation of one of the officers. 2 of our officers are currently in FTO. We've got 1 slated for the academy in August. They're letting us have 1 there, and then our other trainee will go in November. And then probably if we hire the 3, it's kind of up in the air whether we'll get them into the November class or it's going to be next year. But they have given an extension up to 2 years now to get people through the academy. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
The CAD, is that just a one-time deal, or is that a?
It's a one-time deal as far as purchasing the hardware or the software. There probably would be something put into the maintenance agreement that we already have that's filling now. I don't know how much that would be.
I have a question on the hiring process for legal. We have an applicant that would be related to one, our chief, was called out. We have something in our handbook that for nepotism, would he still be eligible to apply with the separation of the direct line supervision in that?
Well, he would be fine under the statute.
Right.
But the ordinance that the town of Mooresville adopted is a little bit more strict. And it does not have that same language in it. And so under the town ordinance, it would be an issue. So there are a couple options there. The town could amend their ordinance to model what the state statute is.
Which I think should happen.
But right now, as the town ordinance is written, that would prohibit that. Well, it doesn't prohibit the application. It would prohibit the hiring and then the placement at the department.
And that would take a modification to that ordinance.
Right, so it would be an ordinance, amendment to the ordinance.
Okay.
What ordinance is it?
I wrote this a couple months ago. So the town of Mooresville adopted a nepotism ordinance itself, so I don't remember the exact number of that.
I'm not offhand, I've got.
I thought it was in the personnel policy meeting.
Yeah, it's in the employment handbook.
I just don't think it's fair for his, not just his son, anybody's son, family member that would want, why wouldn't there steps taken place to have supervision in between, you know? Should alter his life goals, you know, he should deserve an opportunity, and nothing to say he's gonna get hired, you know? There's a process for that. So.
The
that's
way
why
I read it, I thought it was referring to direct supervision.
The
But-
statute talks about a direct line of supervision, so I think this situation would be okay under the statute, but the way that when, I don't know if you forwarded me the language, somebody forwarded me the language, when you look at that, the town of Mooresville's language is more restrictive.
It says like
than the state statute.
direct supervision or control. It uses the word control.
I had submitted the question to you, Jewel, and it had all that, both the copy of the state statute and the Mooresville employee handbook.
How many applicants do you have in this process right now? You know, offhand,
From what I was told, about 20.
which is sad. That's a low number. Yeah.
Okay, so here it is. So when you look at, it's 3.6 of the handbook, apparently, employment of immediate family members. Members of an immediate family, i.e. spouse, child, brother, sister, parent, or spouse, may not be employed in situations where one member of the family is in a position of supervision or control over the other. The section shall not apply retroactively to any current employees. And so when you compare that with the language of the statute itself, the statute itself talks about a person is in, for the purposes of this section and chapter, a person is in the direct line of supervision of an elected officer or employee if the elected officer or employee is in a position to affect the terms, conditions of employment, including making decisions about work assignments, compensation, grievances, advancements, or performance evaluations. Terms do not include the responsibilities of the executive, legislative body, or fiscal body of a unit. There's a lot of clarification and delineation out there through the years since the nepotism law was passed, I think in 2012, 2011, which talks about as long as you have the direct line of supervision is a break, but in your handbook language, it does not have that same language of direct line of supervision. It's simply a position of supervision or control over the other. And so that's the language that would need to be tweaked.
By the time he's hired, if he's even offered a job.
Correct.
You know, I'm just one of five, you know, I mean, obviously something we would vote on. It would be, my opinion, if he can continue with the process. I know you said it starts June 27th. Do you have any involvement with this hiring process at all?
No, Captain Case is totally in charge of it due to the fact that he is in that process.
So you've got zero involvement?
Zero involved.
You know, at this point, until it's passed, I mean, obviously he can continue the process if he chooses to, with no guarantees that this would be passed if he was considered for employment. So, I mean, that would be a gamble he would have to take to consider, you know, going in June 27th, because our next meeting's when, July 6th, you said?
7.
7th. Therefore, you can even, you know, bring it up and talk about it, right? To change it if we chose to do that. Right, yeah, I mean, it would be down the road, but let's say he starts on June 27th, and then this council chooses not to change the wording, then he's not eligible, but he's already been vested into the process, he would have to obviously drop out, because he wouldn't be eligible. Or Kevin would have to, hey. It's an option. No, I mean, I think it's something this council needs to look at. We've never been more strict than state law, you know? We've always mirrored it or been more generous, so I think it's something we need to look at. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other department heads reports?
I'd like to start off by thanking the council for considering the help with the flower bed maintenance. That's going to be a huge help if we can find a way to make that happen. But for the last couple of weeks, we've been street sweeping the entire town and finished that up yesterday. We've been taking down some trees and grinding the stumps. Of course, mowing continues as well as weed control. Patching holes. We did install a guardrail in Indiana, Washington, and we've been doing sidewalk milling in lieu of tearing out and replacing sidewalks to save money. It's not aesthetically pleasing, but trying to do the best we can with a limited budget so far. So, questions?
The guardrail at Indiana and Washington. I know that I had a citizen ask me several times what we could do there, and it didn't meet the 6-to-1 drop with the Unified Traffic Control Manual states. Are we in compliance with that, or I'd asked you about a curb there or something to.
We talked about it a couple of years ago. There was a difference in the elevation of the pavement with dirt. We did burn that, but it came as a request to install the guardrail there. We had some leftover material. We did on Franklin.
I like the looks of it. I was just worried about if it gets hit. It scares me a little bit, but that's all right. Like I said, I like it. I like what they did at the school. I like what you did over here at
Franklin.
I like what you did at Franklin, and I like that there. But I just wanted to make sure because I was concerned with that drop there. Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Any other department heads?
I have nothing.
Can I say something? Can I say something about department heads? I've been coming to meetings for a long time, well before I've been on the council, and I've never seen the wastewater treatment plant department head or assistant ever come in and give a report. I don't think that's fair to other department heads. Is there a way to?
I can have him here. I promise you. Usually it gets a little bit, I don't want to say complicated, it gets a little bit intrigued that you've been to ask it.
Well, I mean, if
I would absolutely, I know that we can have him. I know that he has been trying to stay away from people.
I understand that. Is there someone in second?
He technically doesn't have a number 2 person, but we've got a guy there that does all of our testing. I'd like to have him come. I'd like for the council to meet him.
Okay.
He's an intriguing guy. Fair.
Fair. Okay. Next item is legal.
So I told you that I would have an update on Mr. Clark's situation. I looked at it, I pulled it up on GIS and did some research. There are 2 separate parcels that we are looking at. Both of those, one of those parcels is landlocked. The other parcel, I don't know is technically landlocked or not, but I don't know that there's a curb cut or anything that's accessing that property. But regardless, for that property, that would not be a concern for the town of Mooresville. We are not the adjacent property owners. It looks like there may be an easement there, so on that property, I don't think that there's anything that we can do.
Is that the one along the neighborhood?
Both of them are by the neighborhood, but this is right along that neighborhood and right on that road. So there used to be, and it's reflected in here, an easement coming through here, but he says that that was closed off. That is a private issue between him and the landowners there. The other property is landlocked, and he would have a right to an easement by necessity. And it's just trying to determine where that would be best to access it. And so I think we're going to have to provide some sort of access to this property. The question is, where would the best place be? Because I don't know that we want him driving through the entirety of our property to get there. I don't know if there's another cut or access point that we can bring in right along here that allows access to the property or not, but we're probably gonna have to look at that.
Dave, do you have a suggestion there or something? Or do you want to just get with them or?
Yeah, I know along that drive, you have pretty high berms there that would have to be removed. And correct me if I'm wrong, that berm was placed there for flood control. Yeah.
So it's acting kind of as a levee?
Yeah, if we cut that, then Mr.
You're not gonna
Gaddis's.
cut a levee.
No, Mr. Gaddis's property would be affected.
You know, I wasn't.
Yeah.
He made the comment that he was trying to sell the place.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the town of Mooresville could purchase it for the average of 2 appraisals.
Yeah.
Can we approach him or have, I mean, would the council entertain the idea of purchasing that property?
It looks like it's probably all floodplain. I didn't check the floodplain map for it, but
What can we use it for?
it's
Could
adjacent
you
to
use
the
it?
plant.
We could use it for, we stage our dirt spoils and concrete, removed concrete in that area anyway. And it's just a temporary storage area for us, so we could use it for that. We could expand over. I don't want to use the term dump because it's all dirt, concrete. We stage it there for the summer, we clean it up in the winter. But we could expand, we could definitely always use more room. You can't build anything in that area, it's flood zone. But yeah, we could use the room, the space.
Do we know what the appraisals were, or are we asking to get them? I know he said the last week, I watched a video, he said that he's got an offer or a pending sale or.
He has since told me that one fell through,
Oh, is that right?
but I don't know.
So, I mean, I don't know that we have any appraisals. We would have to go get them.
Would we have him contact him and ask him if he's interested in doing that or?
I can't.
He's going to be down in town flipping mulch anyhow, so.
Do we need a motion?
No, I can't.
Okay, he'll just start that conversation and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're trying to correct the situation. We would be interested in the one, and he can worry about the other, or we could be interested in both parcels, or both halves. Obviously, it's broken down by it's divided by the 3.
Yeah.
I know the park can always use more grass to mow.
Doesn't look like there's much grass on that.
I don't know of another way out of that. I would assume that if we had known that it was for sale, I don't know, did that show as a sheriff's sale at some point? Or maybe not, I don't know. I'm assuming that if we would have known, we probably would have been interested in it at that time.
Okay.
He's definitely working on it.
Okay. Any more from legal?
Nope.
think so. Is there anything else I supposed to talk about?
I don't believe so, is there?
I think so.
I kind of hope not. Public comments, this would be for anything not on the agenda. I think Mr. Justin signed in, so.
Yes. I was probably gonna go for Dave. I live in the Burkmore addition. There's been a street light that's been out for almost 3 years now. I know my previous landlord contacted the town. I've contacted RMC. RMC told me nobody's paying the bill on it. They said if I wanna pay the bill on it, they'll fix it. But it's been out for almost 3 years. And I've got pictures here. There's also a conduit pipe comes up. There was some wiring in that. I don't have a picture of the actual wiring, but it's in front of that street light, so you see it in this picture here.
I have no idea what that would be.
But we've taken it all up, so. And I've got other pictures that shows the other lights on clear that are working, be in the other pictures there. One of them's at Lewis Drive, you should see that light is actually lit.
What is the?
And that is actually a bus stop area. So kids actually meet at that corner of Lear in the center.
Lear and Center?
Yes.
Obviously, we don't maintain the lights, but I can try my best to reach out to RUC. They're not as easy to deal with as IPL. IPL has a lights website.
And like I said, I contacted RMC, and RMC said if I wanted to pay the bill, they'd fix it, but.
Can I see those pictures?
Sure. I'm not gonna pay a bill for something that's not on my property, so it's across the street from me.
How do we determine if it's one of ours?
Is there a number on it? I mean, IPL number's there.
It's RMC.
I know, but I mean, is there a number anywhere?
Not that I've seen.
How did they know which one it was when they told you to know when it was a man?
It's like there's a number 10 at the bottom of that line. I don't know if that means anything. But you're right, there's normally a number on the pole.
A tag?
And I would just say that normally when you're talking about utilities and streetlights, the utility company is pretty good at identifying those that are owned or are the responsibility of the town or a municipality, because they know that they can send them, you guys, a bill, and that bill's going to get paid. And so if they don't have anybody on there as the paying entity of that, that tells me that it's probably not a town of Mooresville light. I don't know if it's in a neighborhood or where it's located, but
That addition was annexed, so it was previously a county subdivision. I don't know if those lights were there whenever that addition was built, so maybe.
homeowners
it was a
association type
something like
situation.
that.
As far as I know, there is no homeowner association.
Okay.
So you're saying it was probably maintained by the county and now it's
I know
been
we
annexed?
eventually annexed that, but I don't know if we took in the ownership of the lights or not.
How much are they to add them? $8 a month or something?
We really pay for a whole lot of streetlights. Very minimal number of streetlights that we pay the monthly bill on.
If I remember right, when we took that in, we put roads in, sewers, stormwater, and I don't think there were any lights down there.
Yeah, I'll reach out to REMC tomorrow and
Okay.
see if they can get that fixed. I'll see if I can find a phone number on it.
What?
And the only other issue is drainage. The ditch for my house, when it rains, it stands full of water. And it stands for water for days. I know it's been brought to the town's attention and nothing's ever been done. And there's a ditch that runs underneath Lear before you get to Allen. And it's overgrown with trees, and also the ditch along Olson 7 is overgrown with trees.
That may be a private property issue. sure where our right of way starts and stops right now.
Okay.
Maybe up to the homeowner to maintain that, but I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, because I don't know what, you know, I know situation with mine, the ground was actually higher than the culvert. So.
I remember years ago, we started piping those ditches, when I was on the street department. We never did, to my knowledge, finish up the entire neighborhood.
That's all I have.
Okay. Any other public comments? Next item on the agenda, motion for the approval of claims.
Make a motion that we approve the amount in $483,449.72.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Aye.
We have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthing?
Aye.
Councilman Worthing votes aye. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. And Shane Williams votes aye. Motion passes. Town council comments. Do we have any from Councilman Cook?
I'll just ask on next agenda, we put the modification to the nepotism regarding, in the handbook regarding the nepotism. We can give yourself an answer on that. And encourage any councilman, if they have any questions, comments, or concerns, contact them. You can spell out how they're running their process.
Okay. Councilman Worthing, do you have any comments?
With the motion, expenses.
Okay. Councilman Stanley?
Nope.
Councilwoman Hester, do you have any comments?
I do not.
And I have no comments. So the next meeting date is Tuesday, July 7th, here at 6:30. Do I have a motion to
Motion
adjourn?
to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Councilman Cook?
Aye.
Councilman Cook votes aye. Councilman Worthing?
Aye.
Councilman Worthing votes aye. Councilman Stanley?
Aye.
Councilman Stanley votes aye. Councilwoman Hester?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hester votes aye. And Shane Williams votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you. I don't
You're
think
the
so.
only person in this meeting. Please stay on the line.
Just to let you know, I'm going to give you the packet, but I'm removing CS1 since our site's got confidential.
Yeah, and it, yes, sir.
John Hancock on a couple spots.
Okay.
I think they're in trouble. I think it may be a breach, but I'm looking at one last thing on that part, that soccer thing. On that soccer thing?
Yeah. Like right in here or right here?
I'm asking more questions. I haven't heard back yet, but I think there may be issues.
The president?
And what issues?
It's that you guys have this set up for more than stuff, and we don't know. I'm just asking where, give us more information about this. You can't just.
He's been vague. It's
Yeah.
like, this is the partnership.
This is the date issue
Yeah.
underneath it. Maybe you need
I'm sorry.
So I'm looking into it.
I appreciate it.
No problem. I'll have something for you soon.
Thank you.
Good.
Yep, and then there's another tab